Welcome to Six-Sided Discs course preview of Marysville Disc Golf Course in Marysville, Ohio, ahead of the Cap City Amateur Open driven by Innova, an amateur-only B tier on July 31st and August 1st. The course has long and short tees. All divisions will be playing the short tees except for MA1, who will play from the longs. Both tees are included in this preview video. Six-Sided Discs will be at the Tournament Central in Hilliard all day Saturday and Sunday, selling all your favorite brands. We got discs, accessories, bags, and lots more. We'll see you there. And we're also going to have a raffle for this beautiful Simon Lizotte Meta Tilt. $1 per ticket. Winners drawn on Sunday evening. We begin at hole 1, the long tee, 561 feet. We have an out-of-bounds path on the right side of the fairway, an out-of-bounds soccer field on the left, and there is an out-of-bounds ditch in the middle of the fairway that cuts through the fairway. We'll see that here soon. Big thanks to Bill Niebarger here, who's going to be our tour guide for both Marysville and Hilliard course previews. So you'll see him throwing some shots. This is a Ballista Pro and more of a safe play here, laying up short of the ditch. Bill's going to get more aggressive on the second shot and test that right side path with, I want to say, a Daedalus from Innova. And that just about gets down safe. Back at hole 1, short tee, 456 feet. The ditch is very much in play here for out of bounds. So if you've got 400 feet of power, you should be able to clear the ditch, but it is a big ask to get over it in one throw. Unless you throw it really far left. So this is a Latitude 64 Explorer that just about clears the ditch on the left side. And this is testing the ditch on the right with a Cosmic Neutron Insanity. And this is going to be a common mistake, hitting that tree and dropping out of bounds. Here's that out of bounds ditch we were talking about. Just cuts right through the fairway. You can expect flags or painted line there to let you know where the out of bounds is. So here's Bill's layup from just short. You can take a couple of routes here. If you got a forehand, you got all the airspace you need, but there is a backhand line kind of over or in front of those trees, leaving you a slightly longer putt. But forehand approaches, I think, are best here. You've just got so much airspace left of the basket. There is that out of bounds path behind the basket that could potentially come into play. And if you do finish on the right-hand side, you're a little bit pinched off. You've got this high hyzer route over these trees, and Bill executes that really well, but it is a challenging shot. There's that out-of-bounds path we're talking about. One of our shots there, I think you can just about see a blue disc is somewhat close to it. Otherwise, you shouldn't be too worried about out-of-bounds by the basket. Just missing your putt like that, so... On to hole 2, this is a combined tee, short and long, 335 feet, par 3. Your out of bounds will be on the path to the right and behind the basket, and the out of bounds soccer field left. I'm going for a wide turnover with a thrasher, but didn't throw it wide enough. But there is a lot of airspace here, and you can get lucky with those trees, the first little guardian trees, so I think I end up around circle's edge there. And Bill's probably making the most common mistake, which is just to not pick the right stability and fade out early. That was a little bit nose up, which I believe is exactly what he said. And just be careful getting too aggressive. The basket's not right up against the path, but it's still only about 10 to 15 feet away. So if you got really aggressive with a putt, you could end up out of bounds. One of the characteristics of this course that you may not see in these videos is how much walking there is in between holes. There's a good 4 or 5 minute walk from hole 2's basket to hole 3, down a bike path, past another hole. You'll be amazed how much walking you do in between holes. So here at hole 3, we have a really tight wooded fairway. The long tee is actually a par 4, whereas the short tee is a par 3, according to UDisc. This may be different for the tournament. And there is OB on this hole, but it's hard to tell how it would come into play unless you threw a really bad shot. Bill's 2 shots there, both kicked early left, which is kind of your worst case scenario. This is a shot from the middle of the fairway between the long and short tees, and this is a sharp dogleg right from the long tee. And if you get an eye for where that short tee is, we actually lost the shot. Here's the short tee. There we go. We lost the tee shot here from the short tee, but you can just about see the basket straight ahead here as we zoom in. And it's probably a putter turnover shot, which I think was my most successful shot, or maybe a high forehand has a chance of fighting in there. The green is extremely protected, and even once you get on it, there are countless trees, which we'll see in just a moment. Bill's going to take a shot here from what would be the ideal landing zone for the long tee, just to the right of the short tee. And that's actually a perfect shot. That would get him a birdie if he was playing from the longs. And here we are on the green, and this is inside circle, just trees everywhere. Very challenging. I think whether you're playing from the short or long tee, you're going to be happy with a par on this hole. There's going to be a lot of bogeys, maybe double bogeys, especially from the long tee. Hole 4 is a short par 3, combined tee, 164 feet. You have out of bounds paved path and beyond, or gravel path and beyond. You're trying to get a shot just around the little cluster of trees there in the middle of the fairway, and fading back enough to avoid the rough on the right-hand side. Maybe a overstable mid-range, and I think Bill's going to go with a overstable driver and a high hyzer route, which I did not see, but Bill will execute to perfection. Fist pump and everything, very nice. And I think I'm going to show you what not to do as I go for that kind of lower route and clip a couple trees. And this is just not a good place to be. There's so many trees, very few angles to try and get through here. But I'm going to go for like a high forehand turnover with an overstable approach disc. And that does just about work out to get within circle. Bill showing you the way to pick up a birdie on hole 4. And now that you've had a couple of short wooded holes, start stretching on your way to hole 5. Hole 5 is a long one, par 4, short tee, 538 feet. This is the long tee here, 676. There's out of bounds. All this tall grass you're looking at here, out of bounds. You can't even see the basket from where we are. You're also going to have an out of bounds path behind the basket and an out of bounds creek to pay attention to as well. That painted line referenced in the caddy guide there is going to refer to the grass there at the tall grass that we were talking about. Bill's going to go for a safe play here, and he's just going to throw about 300 feet straight ahead. This is going to fade just barely in bounds on the right side of the tall grass. You can see his reaction. Over here at the short tee, you can finally get a sense for what's going on this hole. We've got a long curving fairway that makes its way to the left to the basket, which is sort of on a little peninsula on its own. So if you've got distance, you can challenge that out of bounds, or if you're confident with the stability and control of your discs, you can throw over that before getting in bounds. Myself, I'm going to take a latitude 64 Grace straight down the fairway and just get a little bit of turn, a little bit of fade to keep it safe inbounds. There you go. Here from the middle of the fairway, we can just finally see that basket a little bit better. And again, all of those weeds there would be considered out of bounds on this hole. I believe Bill said it used to be a patch of sunflowers, like 12 feet high or something. And on a par 4, that's a good second shot from Bill. He's definitely keeping it inbounds. He's going to have a long putt or a short approach. I'm going with a Berg. I think from the short tee, you got a really good chance of a birdie on this hole. So if you're looking for a list of kind of attackable holes, this is one of the most attackable birdies on the course, assuming it's being played as a par 4. And there's all your out of bounds paths behind. Again, really only a consideration if you're getting super aggressive. Hole 6, though, does have some real out of bounds on the left. That is an out of bounds path, and beyond it, you're going 371 feet from the long tee here, or 318 from the short just in front there. And Bill's going very aggressive with a high turnover, hoping that it'll flex back and fade into the fairway. And that one is going to end up right on the edge of the rough, which is pretty fortunate. Here we get a little bit better view. There are some guardian trees. You'd like to stay right of those to keep an open line to the basket. And I'm hoping to do a little bit of a turnover with my Cosmic Neutron Crave, but I throw it nose up, and it is picked up by the wind and out of bounds. And here's where Bill ended up. Not a great place to be. He's still about 100 feet out from the basket. So a lot of work to do from a knee with a low ceiling. I think he's reaching for a zone here. Yeah, and here's those guardian trees. If you do go out of bounds on the left side, you're a little bit pinched off. I'm just flicking a really overstable forehand around the corner, and that was well executed. It's right under the basket. And I will say this course, again, with all the walking in between holes, much longer than it says it is. And if it's anywhere as hot as it was for us, we're only at hole 6 and we're already absolutely drenched in sweat, exhausted. I'm using a chalk ball for grip, and it's just barely getting me enough grip to get things going. Oh yeah, there's the A1 plug, very nice. All right, hole 7's a tricky one. From the long tee that you see there ahead of you, we're gonna pan across the out of bounds path to the fairway at the short tee. From the long, it's 354, the short 295. Straight ahead, the basket is around to the right. Now, from the long tee, your drive has to land or cross inbounds, which is just getting across that path right in front of you. Shouldn't be a problem. But you may end up in the tall grass. The safest play is a high overstable forehand from the long tee over here, which is what we're seeing now. And just playing to get into the fairway. If you wanted to get really aggressive, you could go for a backhand turnover to sort of turn into that gap, but it's a low percentage shot, I think. And this may be one of the only forehands Bill threw, so that's how you know that's the play. All right, back at the short tee, we can actually just about see the basket. I'm going to be throwing a Discraft Meteor, and I am going for that more aggressive turnover line. And that just gets lucky and stays on the edge of the brush there. Here you can see how tight the angle is down the fairway to get to the basket. From Bill's forehand, he's got a nice view of the basket. And, you know, playing from the long tee, you're really playing this hole for a par. I think that's your best case scenario. It's definitely a 2-shot hole. One of the places that a couple of Bill's shots landed was over here in the rough, slightly pinched off. And it's not a nice place to be, but there is a tiny little gap that you might be able to get lucky and pitch something through. But again, you're still looking at a par. You're still looking at maybe a much more difficult par than just throwing a forehand. This is, I should point out where his backhand's faded out. We're over there in the weeds. And even my pretty decent looking shot here is going to leave me with a challenging, patent pending little pitch out with a pig. And there is an out of bounds gravel path behind the basket again. So if you get too aggressive, you'll find out of bounds behind it. Bill's telling us how much he loves his judge that he got from Six Sided Discs. Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. And we're moving on to hole 8. Hole 8 is another tight wooded one, combined tee at 243 feet, par 3. We've got out of bounds paved path and gravel path. Again, these paths shouldn't come into play too much unless you kick way off the fairway. I believe one of the paths is lining the left side fairway. So a nasty tree kick could get you out of bounds. Bill's going with a straight shot with a buzz, I believe, and that one just didn't get any turn. But it's not a super long hole. That's a salvageable par from there. Here he's got a little more of like a putter turnover. Still catches a tree, but that one got down there pretty far. And let's see, it looks like I'm throwing a Discmania C-Line FD. And I was hoping to get a little bit of turn and a little bit of fade. Didn't quite work out how I thought it would. Bill's showing you here what happens if you do get pinched off on that left side. It's really not a nice place to be. You want to push your drive to the right side of the fairway if you can. It'll leave you these open lines into the basket. Well, open-ish. Again, another well-protected green. And again, another one, if you get too aggressive, there is a path behind it. I think the out of bounds on much of the course, you know, with paths behind baskets and stuff like that, are really not that bad. They only punish you if you're hyper aggressive from a bad position and you go 30 long. So on to hole 9. We're going back towards hole 2 here along the path, 371 feet from the long, 184 from the short. This path that's on the right side of the fairway is out of bounds and beyond. There's also a creek at the end of the hole behind the basket. And Bill's first shot here gets lucky and lands inbounds after hitting the tree. We'll see a second shot, which is a much more ideal line from the long tee. I think he's ripping on a Proton Trace here. And that one makes it just ahead of the short tee. Not a bad place to be. Careful on this short tee as well. It's slightly slanted to the left, which can give you some awkward footing. We can finally see the basket there. I'm going to be throwing a K1 Cax from Castoplast. And very happy with that shot. That's in the circle, and that's a look at birdie. And this is another one of your must-get birdies, so put it on your list. At least if you're throwing from the short tee. Bill gets aggressive and skips off the path there for his par look. And watch out for distractions here, too. You'll see the truck pass Bill there in the corner. There's a highway that cuts over. So this path on our right, the creek behind, the road, all of that's out of bounds. I'm not sure how you'd get it onto the road, but I suppose somebody's done it. All right, there's a wobbly birdie. And we're on to hole 10. So hole 10, we got a fancy out of bounds graphic. Right of the path is OB, and this path curves to the right just before the basket. So the path and that area to the right is out of bounds. You're going to want to throw maybe a forehand or turnover straight ahead, and you're just trying to really hit that hill in front of the basket, which should check up your speed and leave you with an easy look at birdie. But look out for bikers. I mean, as soon as Bill let go of that disc, these people came around the corner. And that is a real challenge on this course. There will be pedestrians and bikers and all kinds of stuff coming down this path. So make sure that your group is spotting a little bit for each other, watching for folks walking up and down the paths. A lot of the holes also crisscross each other, so you'll have other players going by as well. And this is a much more aggressive second shot there from me, showing you which way you shouldn't go. Backhands will have a tendency to fade to the left of this elevated basket, and that's where I find myself here. There is out of bounds water on the left-hand side of the fairway, which is probably hard to reach from most positions. But that's a safe bid. And then Bill has what looks like a pretty routine birdie look here. But here we're going to learn a lesson in why you tune in to watch these preview videos, which, again, thank you to everybody who's given us positive feedback on these preview videos. We really appreciate it. Bill is so close to picking up a birdie there, but look what lurks behind hole 10. He's now 25 long with an uphill comeback putt. And this is a really challenging look from where he's at. There's the angle. And just low, takes him all the way back down the other side. So, I mean, you can really get into a tough spot where you're going back and forth across this little mound. See if Bill can cash in his bogey. Wow. That says it all. Unbelievable. Went from a birdie to a double bogey in a matter of moments, and that is really, really tough there on hole 10. This is hole 11 from the long tee, 522 feet through a teeny tiny gap. You must cross the path that you see ahead of you to get inbounds. If you don't cross the path, you take a stroke penalty and proceed to the drop zone, which is the short tee, or you can choose to re-tee, which would be crazy. Here is our view of that tee from down the fairway. Pretty small gap there. All right, Bill is showing us, ooh, your worst case scenario. I think that did just barely cross in bounds. But if you don't turn the disc over enough with a backhand, you're going to end up out of bounds. This is the better play. This one, I think, does also catch a tree, but it is at least in the fairway and inbounds. There will also be out of bounds ditch on the right, the same ditch from hole 1. And there may be a line keeping you from throwing into hole 1's fairway. So keep an eye out for that. I think the best route, in my opinion, is this high turnover. I'm throwing a Prodigy D1. You see it land there on the right side of the picture. And that gives you a really, really open look and also helps avoid a lot of out of bounds. So take an overstable driver and just crank it out there. More out of bounds behind this basket. We have a path as well as the parking lot. The path is a little bit closer than previous paths, but that parking lot should only be a factor again on very, very aggressive shots, or maybe if the wind carries you over there. I would recommend maybe planning to refill on water and stuff from your car after hole 11. It is a long, long course, and you've walked a considerable ways already at this point. Moving on to hole 12, par 3, long is 430 feet, short 318, and we are not playing to the basket you see. Hole 12's basket is actually behind these trees to the left. There's out of bounds parking lot on the right. If you grip lock it over there, we've got out of bounds path beyond the basket. Rough trees on the left, which Bill's going to show you the common mistake here, is fading into those trees. And there will also be an out of bounds painted line to keep you from going into hole 18's fairway. So keep an eye out for that when you get there as well. This is the short tee, 318. And I'm going with a Castoplast Lots that I'm just going to try and hyzer flip to flat and let it fade around the corner. And I'm not going to lie to you, that was absolutely perfect, which you'll see here in a moment when it is completely parked. Bill showing us you got really nothing from inside those trees, so keep it in the fairway. And then if you do manage to get out here in the fairway, you've still got a challenging approach. There's that path lurking behind again. This one's a little bit closer than other ones, so out of bounds, very real possibility. And I think that would be a bogey for Bill on this one. And a birdie parked. All right, hole 13's long tee is not messing around. 449 feet. OB path cuts through the fairway. OB water on the left side of the fairway. There will be a painted line for some out of bounds as well. And from this long tee, you have to cross inbounds. So you have to cross over the path. Failure to do so, 1-stroke penalty to the drop zone, which is the short tee. Bill's getting really aggressive here with a turnover, and it does get over inbounds, but fades out into out of bounds. The short tee is a lot more straightforward, 269 feet. Keep it to the left of that bike path, and you are good to go. But there is water behind the basket if you get way too aggressive. I think it's a mid-range or a putter shot if you have the distance. I'm going with an MD3. Chucking it right up the middle, and that's the way to do it. Feeling good. All right, so here's where Bill crossed inbounds. Just a pitch up down the fairway there. And I think we'll be able to see it on the next shot. There's water just the other side of those trees and brush behind the basket. So again, really, really aggressive runs at the basket can get punished. You could get some weird rolls or metal hits that kick you off of the basket or something. There's the river behind it, you'll see. So just be aware. Maybe give it a lofty bid if you're long. Don't get too aggressive. My hands are too sweaty to even pick up my disc. Oh boy. There's a better view of the water behind that I forgot we had. Good job. All right, we're moving on to hole 14, par 3. Combined tee at 443 feet. You got out of bounds path on the right, out of bounds creek on your left. There will be an out of bounds painted line near the basket. And this shot just needed to get up in the air a little bit more. It is a long, I don't have 443 feet of power. I don't know about you. So for the lower divisions, I think priority here is keeping it inbounds. Bill is testing that path, and he gets really lucky. He clips a branch, but doesn't drop onto the path, which I hear is a common mistake on this hole. So I think you'll probably be playing this one for par. Don't get too aggressive. Put it in the fairway, maybe 300 feet. Have a nice, easy approach. And then you should be on your way. This is roughly where I think the painted line would be, and there goes the gyro on our gimbal dying in the heat. Moving on to hole 15, par 3 long is 266 feet. That's our view right now. You've got residential neighborhood, backyards, mostly fenced in. And I hear at least one of these neighbors is not keen on discs landing in their yard, so exercise caution. That would, of course, also be out of bounds. And there is an out of bounds path behind the basket as well. Bill's going to throw a nice smooth putter turnover around the corner. From the long tee, you're probably playing this for par. It's really hard to get a shot all the way around this corner and to get it to push and penetrate far enough to get to the basket. There's the basket just peeking out of the trees there. This is from the short tee. And the out-of-bounds path is directly behind the basket. So, again, very aggressive runs at the basket. If you're trying to ace it, you may end up out of bounds. I'm thinking like a Berg turnover, and then right after I threw it, I thought, Bergs don't go 220 feet. I guess unless you absolutely crush it. And I didn't. So. Ooh, and there's an excited squirrel down there. You can see the path just behind the basket, and it's downhill, so could be some rollaways here. And the rough is pretty rough on the right side of this fairway, so I would exercise caution there and just take an easy par. Try and score on a different hole. Like hole 16. This is a pretty easy one. Long is 344 feet. Short, 243. You've got out-of-bounds path down the middle, and to the right of that path will be out-of-bounds as well, and probably a painted line to keep you from going long. Bill throws a perfect shot, skipping off the path with a... I'm not sure what disc that is. And here's our view from the short tee. Maybe overstable driver or overstable mid-range or even an approach disc. You're just trying to get 230 feet or so straight ahead, a little bit to the left. I think I'm throwing a neutron fireball. And that'll work.
Hey Bill, what'd you throw there?
I threw a Fission Photon, Lane King.
Ooh, where'd you get that from?
Six-sided disc when I was up Caesar Ford last weekend here.
Ooh. Hey guys, come out and see us at Cap City, Burr Oak Blitz later this year. We're getting out to as many places as we can go to, and if you're somebody running a tournament and you'd like us to come sell or vend payout, sponsor CTPs, whatever, drop us a line on our website, social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. We'll see you there.
All right, back in the action. Hole 16, very elevated basket here. And that's a great birdie putt from Bill. Very real rollaway possibility here. If you get it low, you're probably going to kick and roll back down the hill, possibly out of bounds. So tricky little green here. And that's just a nasty spit out. Dead center chains. High in the middle. We're both in disbelief. Even the camera's in disbelief. My poor camera couldn't handle the heat. It was about 90 degrees. I obviously couldn't handle the heat either. Oh boy. All right, we're moving on to hole 17. This is a tricky one. We got out of bounds all over the place. There will be an out of bounds painted line on the left, out of bounds path on the right, path and beyond. There's also a mandatory. The mandatory does not really come into play. If you miss the mando, you're out of bounds anyways. So you don't want to be anywhere on the left. You also don't want to be anywhere on the right. What I'm going for on this first shot is a Prodigy D1, and I'm hoping to get a lot of fade, but I ripped it way too far to the right, and this is just never going to get inbounds. So I'm going to try and make a correction. I'm going to go for an Axiom NV down the left side, or down the middle, I should say. And this isn't really challenging the Mando, but it's a much safer play. Less distance, but more control, and it's at least in the fairway. Just barely. Bill is going to show us the high route to keep it inbounds. Kind of lose sight of the disc. I think it went... Oh, there it goes. And that is inbounds left of the path. That's a good shot. We will get a shot now of the mandatory, which is just kind of tucked back in here. Again, there's no way that you would even want to throw the other side of that mando, so I think you're fine there. And we finally get our view of the basket, which is up these little like grass steps. So this is a really tricky hole. I think you're playing it for par at best, and I think this is going to play as one of the hardest holes on the course. So there's my second shot, gets me to the bottom of the hill. Also, look out for this tree. I don't know what the heck kind of tree this is, but it clearly doesn't like people. Oh, gosh. Your ideal landing zone is just where Bill ended up here. It's kind of your best case scenario. I can't imagine getting too much further down the fairway unless you've got crazy power. But his got picked up by the wind and really pushed out into the open here. It does say there's going to be an out of bounds painted line. I'm not sure where that's going to be, possibly up here near the basket. So Bill might have ended up out of bounds. Hard to say. By the way, if you do miss the mando on this hole, there will be a marked drop zone for you to play from. So if you really shank one off of the tee, it's a possibility. And we are moving on to our final hole, hole 18, from the long tee, 367 feet. Once again, we've got out of bounds path on the right, and beyond, there will be an out of bounds painted line behind the basket to keep you from getting to hole 12's basket. Bill's going with a little bit of a turnover. This one, a little bit of turnover fades out on him. I think it was just a little bit nose up. Not a bad place to be. It's a safe play. From the short tee, it's a much straighter shot. Just try not to get too aggressive and pull something to the right out of bounds. Forehand could be a very safe play. I'm going to be going with a Malta right down the middle. And hitting the pull. Not bad. Not a bad way to finish. This should be, again, one of the easiest birdies on the course to close out your round. Or, what a putt. What a putt from Bill there for his birdie on hole 18 from about, 90 feet or something. Great putt. Big thanks to Bill. Big thanks as well to tournament director Jesse and everybody who's part of the Cap City crew here. There's a little fake out lefty putt to close it out. We had a great time up in Marysville. It was crazy hot. I think I also lost my AirPods there, so if anybody finds some AirPods in Marysville, that'd be great. Hook me up. But we look forward to seeing you all at the Cap City Amateur Open. Make sure you stop by and see us down at Tournament Central in Hilliard. We'll be there all day Saturday and Sunday. Don't forget also our raffle for the brand new Discmania Meta Tilt Crazy Disc. Super fun to throw. We hope whoever wins it enjoys it. And thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll have a preview coming of Hilliard's short and long tees very soon.